K-pop isn't about watching and listening a lot. It's about playing it on repeat. Music shows have become an entertainment where fandoms compete for superiority. I think we also need to address the most closed off people in the world, chart hacking in other countries. Originally, the Grammy Awards were meant to honor musicality, not hits. It has nothing to do with K-pop, which buys charts with money. Internet traffic might be something someone can pay to manipulate. Chart numbers and streaming counts can be inflated through programming. However, you cannot manipulate the people who willingly buy hundreds of dollars worth of tickets, bear best outplays, stand on their own 2 feet in stadium, stands and sing along at the top of their lungs. Because the box office revenue generated is amounting to a proxy $33 million US or South is undeniably real, calling a fandom's organized consumption chart, hacking the defense mechanism from those who fail. To read the flow of the times, when pop stars like Taylor Swift or Beyoncé release albums, the demos shown by their fans are fundamentally no different from those of K-pop fans. It is not a cheat or a hack, rather. It is a new form of muscle, moving the massive elephant that is the 21st century music industry. The Recording Academy, which hosts the notoriously conservative Grammys, placed BTS on its nominee list for 3 consecutive years, crossing the threshold of the Grammys. It signifies that the mass appeal and musical perfection of K-pop, which its detractors so desperately want to deny, have already been recognized within the world's mainstream system. The Asian category seems to have been newly created for overly commercial purposes. From BTS's perspective, aiming for awards in major categories, it must have been incredibly unpleasant. The Grammys are essentially a house party for the American music industry in the first place. For foreigners who sold well due to the activities of hardcore fans to enter and complain about not getting the award that they want. I'd like to tell them to respect the other country's culture too. The Grammys are fundamentally a local legal award determined by the votes of American music industry professionals. This is in the exact same vein as director Bong Joon-ho's sharp jab when he called the Oscars a local film festival. If it is a local award, it might be right to follow their rules. The problem, however, is that the Grammys attempt to exert global influence by packaging themselves as the music's biggest night. They want worldwide viewership, yet they have always been stingy, that allowing non-English speaking artists or artists of color to stand at the center of the general field. The history of the weekend declaring a boycott and hip-hop artists criticizing the Grammys' white centricity proves this. In this context, let's examine of the newly created Asian category at the Grammys. As the first commenter accurately grasped, this category comes, however, the condition of excluding songs sung in English by Asians or songs centered around English. We need your influence and viewership. So we will make a small room for you called Asian category. However, do not try to take a piece of the pop mainstream pie by singing in English. Stay in your zone in your own language. This is not respecter. It is segregation and an isolation disguised as consideration. What BTS has always stated is the simple and clear truth that music is not distinguished by language. Whether they sang in Korean or English, they remained unwavering in the fact that it was fundamentally BTS's music. As global pop stars, English was just one of many paint colors for them. The Grammys, however, took issue with the color of that paint and tried to confine them to a specific category. If BTS refused to submit to this category or consider it meaningless, it is not them throwing a tantrum over not receiving an award. It is a clear rejection of denying music's universality and boundaries based on language and race. I think we suffer from slant-eye poses and mockery in sports and such as well. It would be nice if things were equal, but are we the only ones who think so? Discrimination does not easily disappear. The solid standards and prejudices built by Western society remain incredibly high, just as rules are changed when Asians excel in figure skating or ski jumping. The establishment raises its walls by modifying the rules whenever their position is threatened. But what matters is the attitude one takes in front of that wall. Some Japanese netizens try to comfort themselves by disparaging BTS's actions as chart manipulation or complaining about American culture. That might perhaps be a defense mechanism of those who have not stood at the center of that Walden attitude of presetting the limits of Asia, the limits of the body, and the limits of language, and trying to stay safely within them. However, BTS was different. Instead of trying to force open a closed door, they chose a way to widen their own path. They did not conform to unfair rules and protected their philosophy that music is not divided by language. Even without a Grammy trophy, they already comfort the loneliness of countless people around the world. True value lies not in the sparkle of a trophy bestowed by someone else, but in how deeply that music has resonated in the hearts of many. I think that in terms of musical skill, we generally cannot match Western peoples. Westerners' musical compositions have a different impact, voice, and physical ability, I'd say. I think East Asians know this though. Is music really like the Olympic 100-meter sprint? A world where muscle mass and lung capacity determine everything. If that were true, Bob Dylan would have never been able to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, and Chet Baker's fragile voice would not have made it onto any charts. What we experience when we listen to music is not mere sound pressure or the power of vocal cord muscles. It is a frequency. The reason BTS was able to reach tens of millions of people worldwide is not because their lung capacity is physically superior to that of Westerners. It is because they delivered perfect performances and sincere. That messages that captured their anxieties, the shadows of youth, and the small light they found within the darkness. The defeatism that East Asians cannot physically beat Westerners is nothing more than an inferiority complex leading Billboard and the global pop market. It depends not on the volume of one's voice, but on how delicately one reads the air of the times and actualizes it into visual and auditory art. BTS is simply one of the artists who have captured that air most accurately.